Welcome to the 700 Club. For today's top headlines, let's go over to the CBN News Desk.
Gordon, President Trump is moving quickly to decide who he will pick as a nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court. The president has promised to announce his choice next Monday, and he started interviewing his candidates for the High Court. Heather Sells has our report.
President Trump met with 4 potential Supreme Court nominees on Monday.
They are outstanding people. They are really incredible people.
The 4 candidates he's met with so far are Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, Raymond Kethledge, and Amul Tapar. The president plans to meet with several more candidates this week before he announces his nominee July 9th. They're believed to be federal Judge Thomas Hardiman and 6th Circuit Judge Joan Larson. Trump is predicting a tough confirmation fight.
It's probably going to be vicious because the other side, all they can do is obstruct and resist.
1/4 of all those who voted for the president told pollsters the Supreme Court was the most important factor. From abortion to religious freedom, there's a lot at stake with this nomination. Evangelicals have seen the court's powerful impact in 2 recent rulings. The Masterpiece Cake Shop decision affirmed that government officials cannot denigrate the beliefs of people of faith. And a ruling on California pregnancy centers has major implications. The court ruled that states can't come down hard on free speech in the marketplace. It shot down a liberal trend that had created a category called professional speech and said it didn't have full First Amendment protections. Those 2 rulings mean that bans on sexual orientation counseling will face severe challenges going forward. And it means that a California bill being debated right now could be dead on arrival. The bill seeks to ban sexual orientation change efforts, something California pastors oppose.
We couldn't sit by and watch life and freedom and joy being taken away from a very important people group in society. I mean, Jesus died for everybody, and he certainly died for those who were in pain.
Several First Amendment attorneys tell CBN News that the pregnancy center's decision undermines the California bill, and that several lawsuits are in the works, assuming the bill passes this week. Heather Sells, CBN News.
The FBI has prevented a terror attack that was planned for a 4th of July parade. Demetrius Pitts has been arrested for allegedly plotting to set off a bomb in downtown Cleveland where people would be gathering to watch fireworks. Pitts has been charged with attempted support of a terrorist group. Officials say he's a U.S. citizen who has expressed support for al-Qaeda and said he wanted to kill members of the U.S. military. International rescue crews are working to rescue 12 boys and their soccer coach trapped deep inside a flooded cave in Thailand. The boys were found alive by a British dive team after being trapped underground for 10 days. Teams are working to get food and supplies to the group while authorities figure out how to get them out since the huge cave is difficult to navigate and parts are still flooded. The boys are in weak but stable condition and have a few minor injuries. Israel is keeping a close eye on new developments in the civil war in Syria after Syrian forces captured a strategic city near the border with Jordan and Israel. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, the fighting has created problems and opportunities for Israel.
The fighting centered on the southern city of Dara, where Syrian troops pounded rebel positions. The offensive combined Syrian ground troops with Russian air power to regain control of southwestern Syria along the Israeli and Jordanian borders. That's an area that recently had been part of a U.S.-backed truce. The fighting created a humanitarian crisis in southern Syria. The UN estimates 160,000 Syrians have been displaced by the conflict. This drone footage shows the camp set up to house these people. This activist called the conditions deplorable. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the crisis at his weekly cabinet meeting.
With regards to southern Syria, we will continue to defend our borders. We will extend humanitarian assistance as much as we can. We will not allow entry to our territory.
Following the fighting next to its border, the IDF deployed more troops to the Golan Heights and reinforced their current positions with additional armor and artillery. In addition to increasing its military presence, the IDF launched a humanitarian operation to assist Syrians caught in the fighting. In a nighttime operation, they provided 60 tons of aid to displaced Syrians. The aid included tons of food, baby food, clothing, and shoes sent to an undisclosed location in the Golan Heights. The IDF also provided emergency medical care to a number of Syrians wounded in the fighting, including some children whose parents had been killed. IDF medical personnel provided life-saving medical treatment, and some were transferred to Israeli hospitals for further medical care. The humanitarian aid is part of Israel's Good Neighbor policy, where they have treated thousands of Syrians for years during the Syrian civil war. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
An author whose book sparked an FBI investigation into the Clinton Foundation is back with another expose. The title of Peter Schweizer's new book speaks for itself. Hidden Empires: How the American Political Class Hides Corruption and Enriches Family and Friends. CBN's Jenna Browder talked with him about uncovering secrets on both sides.
Politicians have gotten very clever about corruption.
Washington has a long and well-deserved reputation for double dealing. And now, according to best-selling author Peter Schweizer, the name of the game is changing.
It used to be they'd take money in a shoebox, they'd get a direct payoff. Now what they're doing is basically setting up their family members or close friends.
Schweizer lays out his case in his new book, Secret Empires, with well-researched examples featuring some big-name politicians.
Vice President of the United States Joe Biden in December of 2013 is flying to Beijing, China on Air Force Two on official business. On the plane is his son, Hunter Biden. 10 days after that trip, Hunter Biden walks away with a $1.5 billion private equity deal from the Chinese government.
As an equity firm, that deal wouldn't require public disclosure. Schweizer says it was found by investigating world capital markets. Aides to the Bidens dispute the accusation. And it's not just Democrats feeling the heat.
Corruption is a human problem. It's a condition of the human heart. It's not an issue related just to Democrats and Republicans.
Schweizer shows that by including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and his wife, Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao.
So Elaine Chao's father and sister run a company that has its ships built by the Chinese government. The construction of those ships are financed by the Chinese government. Many of the shipping contracts are with Chinese government entities. So they've made a lot of money with the help of the Chinese government.
Schweizer says some of that money came to McConnell in the form of a gift from his father-in-law, running somewhere between $5 and $25 million. This, too, was also never publicly disclosed.
And here's the problem with all of this. Senator Mitch McConnell knows that if he were to take a harsh position on Beijing as it relates to human rights or trade policy or currency manipulation, they could shut down the family business tomorrow.
He says McConnell's record in Congress is telling.
He's become progressively softer in his policy views towards China. It's extremely troubling.
McConnell's office calls these wild accusations not backed by credible sourcing. One of Schweizer's big takeaways in the book is that corruption is upstream from policy.
So what do I mean? If you've ever gone backpacking or camping and you want to drink out of a stream, you check upstream to make sure there's nothing toxic, because it's going to poison the water you're drinking. Same thing in Washington, D.C. Corruption is upstream from policy. These corrupt deals are affecting the policies that we in this country have to live under.
He says the rules of the game need to change.
It's not a victimless crime.
And at the end of the day, the American people deserve to know. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.